Hello, everyone. Tom here, bringing you another episode of the Noise Brigade. I'm here with Bobby. You
You,
there? Yo,
I'm
man.
here.
Good deal. What's going on?
Oh, not a whole hell of a lot, man. How's it going?
It's going. So we do a lot of video games here.
No,
I
not
think.
us.
No. What's a video game?
Yeah. Is that those
Uh,
computer mabobs?
I think you. Is that something you play on the Victrola?
I believe so. I believe so. You have to crank it up
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
it.
then
That's it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now we do a lot of these, and we kind of go back and forth to certain ideas, and we figured this one was, it was an interesting idea. I don't know how far we'll get with it, but we're going to kind of start off with, different games that we've discovered through the years that we can determine as bargains. And my initial thought was this was kind of thinking like things that we found that were like just under $30. And that could be for anything. It could be for an old system that we found 15 years ago. It could be something that we found well after release, even to a mobile game. I certainly think that that's a fair thing to include. Um, and I only say that because when I say the bargains, like think about the amount of money you spend and the time you put into it and the enjoyment you receive. Right. I mean,
Right.
I think that's part of it. We talked about that with um, our the one gaming episode we did where we discussed what makes a great game, and one of the things that we hit on was enjoyment. So that was kind of like what the precipice was for this for me, was thinking like, okay, what are some of these cheap games we've picked up that we just got so much enjoyment out of, and we either did for a long time or we still do now years later. And again, could be anything, back from when we were kids or up till now. And I figure, if we don't have enough to fill that up, we'll just kind of dive into kind of another round of what we're playing now. And look, this is going to be rehash. We've either talked about it here um, to some extent, but we might get a little deeper on certain games, and then I don't know. We'll just kind of see where it goes. What do you think?
I'm on board with this 100%.
So, if I say bargain game, do you have anything that just like strikes you that you've played, that you picked up, that you bought, maybe you even traded in, or traded for, I should say? That's like, man, this was like the best bargain I've ever had in a game.
So I'm gonna take the mick out of this one right away because I'm gonna shoot for the one that you and I have been playing um a whole lot lately, um, which is Retro Bowl on the Switch.
Yeah, and what a ridiculously fun game. So you threw this out to me last week, and you said you picked it up for free, right?
Yeah, I got it. It was on sale for like 249, but I had coins in my Nintendo account, so I just used that, like the stuff you get for buying physical games and stuff. Um, so it was 100% free for me.
Yeah, and I was able. I didn't get the sale. I ended up and I had some coins. Mine when I saw it was 4.99. I grabbed it for just under four, so it was like 3.86, or three something. But here's the thing. I'll be honest with you on these types of games. I believe Retro Bowl was originally released as a mobile game, right?
Yeah, but that was once I started playing it and I kind of understood and I realized, oh yeah, you know what? I did play this. I don't remember how long ago, but I didn't like it on the phone. I didn't like the controls on the phone, so I deleted it right away.
Yeah, and look, I'll be honest with you on this one. Anytime I see anything that even remotely resembles Tecmo Super Bowl, I'm really apprehensive on even wanting to pick it up. For one, because I know in my head, like I've kind of set that groundwork of I'll be really disappointed because I've talked about it here multiple times of how much of a fan of Tecmo Super Bowl that I am, and that I just was like, well, even though it only was for me under $4, this is going to be a waste. Like that's how I was thinking about it initially, and I was like, you know what? It's only that, so I'll dig in, and plus, obviously, I'd certainly value your opinion, so I wasn't completely like, kind of going in blind on this one, dude. What a fun game! My goodness.
Right?
You want to kind of break down what this is like comparatively to like other football games that you might have played?
So with this game, it's very much the graphics are definitely Tecmo Bowl-esque. Um, where it differs and it kind of breaks some of the cardinal rules that I have for football games, where I like it to be, it doesn't have to be like a straight like simulation, but I like it to be football and you control the aspects of the game. This game is a little bit different in that you don't actually really control the quarterback in the pocket. Um, you don't play any defense. You don't, to my knowledge, punt. I don't punt, so maybe you do. I know you can select to punt, but
Yeah, you can select the punt, but you don't actually do the kicking like
okay,
stuff like you do as a kicker. Yeah, like
okay,
when you kick that field goal or extra point.
right. And so there's like a lot of it that you don't actually play, and the way it works is you have your quarterback, you have on every team, you have 12 star players. And those 12 star players can be divided up between defense and offense and a kicker if you want to have a kicker. Um, but the way it works is your defensive players, the only way you'll know if they're doing well or not is you'll see their name pop up. Like I've been using wrestler names and superhero names. So for instance, my most recent season, because I do sit down and play this seasons at a time, um, I was seeing Luke Cage's name come up a lot.
Nice.
So Luke Cage is one of my defensive linemen, and he was getting multiple games where his name was popping up with Luke Cage had a huge sack, which I swear it's not a not a double entendre. Um, but like you would see that stuff come up, but otherwise you don't really know. Kevin Owens was one of my, I don't remember if Kevin Owens is a defensive back or a linebacker, but like he was still developing. He was a rookie and I was still filling up his stats, and was like Kevin Owens was too slow or Kevin Owens missed a tackle, that kind of stuff. So you'll see that kind of stuff on offense. If you run the ball, you'll press B to snap snap the ball, and then the quarterback automatically hands it off, and then you have to control the running back. On If you're passing the ball, your quarterback automatically drops back, and you aim a reticle at somewhere on the screen where your receiver is supposed to be running their route, and then it's kind of like a you know you're throwing it to a spot and hoping they get to it and catch it, and then you would take over the receiver if they catch it. um, it's very different, and there's a lot of off the field stuff that you have to control. Like you have to control how good your stadium is, how good your training uh, facilities are, and how good your rehab facilities are. You have to make sure that all of your players are happy, because their happiness plays a role in their growth and in their performance. And you have to take care of your offensive and defensive coordinators and make sure that they're happy and that they're getting taken care of. And you have a limited um, salary cap, and you earn coins through playing the game, and you have to use those coins to buy free agents, to pay your contracts, to pay your coordinators, to upgrade your facilities. You have to deal with the owner. You have to deal with the media. You have to deal with one of your, like I had one year, my kicker, I ended up having to get rid of him because every other week he was getting pulled over by the cops, and it was fucking with the chemistry of the team. So I had to get rid of him. It's very interesting. It's for such a simple game, it's pretty deep. And for especially, I mean, even at $5, I can't recommend it more. Like it's amazing.
It really is, and it's really interesting the fact that and you mentioned this too with taking care of your stadium, and that also brings in your fans, and because you have to keep your fans happy too. Then you have to look at your offensive and defensive coaches, because you can hire those. You have a salary cap you have to work with, which is really cool. Kind of brings that element into it. There's different things you can edit. Like you said, you can edit the names to whatever you want. And I think you can go down and the cool thing is, like, I know you play the game. It's like you can change the color of the ball. You can
Yeah,
select different
yeah.
ones there, which is pretty cool. And I believe you can do the same thing, change your team names and uniform colors as well. So it's really highly customizable. The thing I really think is funny though, I different cases. I'm on season 5 right now, and I had in season 4. I had a basically run through. I'd lost the first game of the season, and then I was running roughshod through. I was undefeated the rest of the way, and I get to the last week of the regular season, and I lose one of my wide receivers to injury, and the guy had been with me the entire time I'd played, and was like, "I'm going to make the playoffs, and I'm hoping to go deep here." And the funny thing is, it's like, yeah, and he was hurt for 5 games, so he's basically going to like be out the rest of the season. If I
Oh
made
no.
it that far in the playoffs, and it's like, nah, you're cut. So,
Jesus, that's cutthroat, man.
so it's like any other football game, it's like you can't do that. But this one, it's like, okay. And so I just picked up, free agent who was like anyone that I possibly could that could fill a role. So
Wow, dude, that's like you're so hardcore. I get attached to the players. I'm like, all right, man. Let's see, what are we gonna do? All right, well, I can't afford to keep you. All right, well, and have you put anybody in the Hall of Fame yet?
no, I was messing around with that, and honestly, the guy I cut, I probably should have.
Oh no.
Yeah, he
Oh
was.
no.
Well, whenever because he was one of the older ones whenever I started, and so he was like on a decline. So this he was
Oh,
like
okay.
obviously he wasn't going to come back. But he was still one as like a slot receiver, so he picked up a lot of receptions for me, and he had some speed too, so it worked out. But now I saw that option too, which is really cool, where you can just like kind of tag players, and the other thing too I really like is that it tracks like the MVP, so it gives them a little badge, or offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year if they won the Super Bowl, gives them a little badge. I think it's really awesome. It's
Yeah.
cool.
So let me ask you this: what year did you say you're in now?
Year 5, and I won this first Super Bowl I won was year 4.
All right, I'm in year 10.
Are you really? Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I just picked it up because I wanted to look. I wanted to look at and see how far I was in because I completely forgot. So the other thing is, when you start off, you have a choice. You can either start off on your favorite team, or you can do like what Tom and I both did, where we let the game just randomly assign us to a team. I ended up getting uh, picked up by the Detroit Lions of all teams. Um, thank God it wasn't the Dallas Cowboys. But what they do is they try and start with a team that sucks, and so that way you can work your way up and kind of like prove your worth to the other teams. So, Tom, you got the Falcons, right?
I did, yeah. They gave me the Falcons, and here's the thing: they weren't. I don't know how they were rated comparative to what you got. Do you remember, like offhand, what the initial star ratings were for your offense and defense?
For the Lions, it was
Yeah, when you
bad. It
first
was
started.
like I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know it was bad. I think it was like 1.5 and 2 or something like that.
Yeah, see, I want to say that my offense was 2.5, maybe 3, but my defense was really bad. It was 1. And that's where it cost me a lot of games early on. And the uh, the things that I couldn't figure out until about because really I don't know how you feel about, but rushing is like incredibly hard.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
there's not because really you have 2 options. You can, well, 3 options. You can just thumbstick it over. You can juke, which works sometimes. It's kind of odd. Or you can dive, which diving's great if you're like in goal line formations, but if you dive, I mean, you dive and you get a yard and that's it. So,
right, right.
but so I found, I think in season 3 it was, I had found this wide receiver in the draft and the speed was really high. And I was like, ooh, I want that guy. And so then I figured out that it's like pretty much all I was doing was just throwing the ball to him because he was so fast. He was outrunning the DBs. So
Yeah. Well, that's actually what I've done. So when I got the job with the Eagles, first thing I did was sign a free agent because I had a ton of coins. So I signed a free agent wide receiver who was, let me look at him because I'm looking at my Hall of Fame right now. It's not going to show me his stats or his levels, but he was dude, he was full on speed and full on catching. So
Oh,
I was like, yep, done. That's exactly what I need. But I'm looking, so in my Hall of Fame right now, I have 7 players. I've got running back James Howlett, which for those of you who don't know, that's Wolverine's real name. I've got 4 wide receivers. I've got Lucas Bishop, who is Bishop from the X-Men, Dick Grayson, who is obviously Dick Grayson, Peter Parker, the Amazing Spider-Man, Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, and then I've got 2 offensive linemen. I've got Mick Foley and I've got Kane Marco, who is the unstoppable juggernaut. And if
that's
you don't know
great.
who Mick Foley is, I'm sorry, I've got nothing
Yeah,
for you. I
we
can't
can't,
help you.
we can't help you there.
Yeah.
Now I went through and I named mine. For the most part, the initial squad anyway. I haven't done anything since. But I named the initial squad after like the real Falcons who were there. So like the guy that I cut, as I was describing a few minutes ago, was Russell Gage.
Oh, no kidding. No
Yeah.
kidding. Well, listen, man, do us all a favor and you know what? I'm gonna screw it. I'm done. I can't remember. I was gonna say cut Calvin Ridley so that the Eagles can sign him.
Yeah, no, you know what's funny? Like whenever I was naming them, I was just kind of going with names off the top of my head, and Calvin Ridley was not number one in my head for some reason, so I went with Russell Gage.
Because he didn't play last year.
Yeah, that might be why. Yeah,
Yeah.
that might be probably exactly why. But I didn't go with Matt Ryan. I had to call him Matty Ice.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh well, no, that was the one thing I did. So like everybody on my team, everybody on the Lions was like all these like superhero and wrestler names, and then the quarterback was Jared Goff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course. You
It's
gotta.
just like, you know what, this quarterback sucks, and he's just gonna stay Jared Goff.
But it's such a great game, and I think, like I said, I was apprehensive of wanting to play it because I had this thing in mind where it's like, yeah, as a copycat, attacking my bowl, take my Super Bowl, whatever. And no, definitely not. In fact, and I've mentioned this to you a couple times through text, but definitely its own entity. The more I play it, the more it's not like those games. That it's its own thing, stands its own legs, and talk about dead on, perfect bargain. If you're just looking for something, especially if you're a football fan or sports video game fan, while away the time, the Switch release. I've never played the mobile release. It makes a lot of sense based on how the passing goes. With what you mentioned, with how you basically you're aiming and you're bullseyeing, a certain player or at least area, and hopefully the guy runs his route right. Um, you know, I could see that being adapted from a mobile standpoint, how that works. And it's just I love the simplicity. A lot of things are very rudimentary, but it's very customizable. So yeah, can't say highly enough about that one. That's a great game.
Yeah. All right, so give me what, man?
All right, so I'm gonna kind of go. I'm gonna go in a different direction where something I've talked about here, maybe in passing, but I'll go kind of back a few years. There's a game released back in 2010 for the Xbox and eventually for Windows. It's called Chime, which is like a music puzzle game. And a year later, it was released as Chime Super Deluxe for the PlayStation 3. And it was a download only, so it wasn't like you could just run out and get the disc or anything. But it was $10, $9.99. So it's like obviously this certainly fits the bill as could be a bargain. And it's ridiculous because it has this like Tetris-like feel to it, which I've said more than once here. That those games I just love. Those blocky puzzle games, but then you have this whole music aspect of it as well. So they have basically this soundtrack of I think it's 10 maybe 12 songs that they put in there from just different like techno artists, and it's really fun. And the one thing it's really cool about it too was that not only did I get my money's worth just playing it because it's so fun, it's a puzzle game, has all this really cool music in it. The proceeds actually went to charities. I think that, and I've looked it up earlier, it actually went to like Save the Children, Starlight Foundation, which is really unheard of in the gaming world. You don't hear that too often. So Very cool game. And the unfortunate thing is, there's been a kind of a fan base behind it to try to get it back. And there were some Kickstarters launched a few years ago, and everything just kind of fallen flat on its face. Because that's what happens when you donate your proceeds to charity.
Right.
And I'm not making light of that part, but that's what happens. You don't really have any capital to continue your series. So, did you ever play that game at all for any system, the Chime or Super Deluxe version of it?
No, I'm not very familiar with that one.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. I highly recommend just like even checking out a YouTube video just to kind of get a sense of like how it was, because I say it's like Tetris, but it's its own thing. It's kind of, to me, it's akin to how Retro Bowl would be to Techno Super Bowl. I think that's kind of why I went that route, because like I will always love Tetris more than pretty much any puzzle game that I ever pick up.
Right.
But this had its own life, and it was its own game. It was similar, but it did draw in a couple of aspects from like other games, because you were trying to cover a space. So you're trying to get completion, which I always makes me think of a couple of different games that way. But have you ever played a game called Jezball? Does that ring a bell?
Yes, it does. Was that the one? Chessball. Why is that the one that had the where you had to like cut off the you had to, like,
You cut the board off and get a certain percentage complete.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, and
that
you had
was
to
kind of like
avoid.
a game called Kicks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jezball was a like a more up to date version, or around the same time, like a computerized version, I guess, like that was on the PC, where
Yeah,
Kix was like arcade or console.
yeah,
And the reason why I always prefer Jezball more than I would say Kix is because the color scheming was a lot better. Because it was like the Minesweeper color scheme, so
okay.
it was a lot easier to see.
Yeah, see, I always played it on Game Boy, so yeah, it was definitely better colors on the PC.
Yeah, dude, I played the tar out of Kicks on the Game Boy. I will say that right now. But no, yeah. But that's kind of the part of the thing with Chime, was that you had to basically complete part of the board to a percentage, and you were always shooting for 100, um, based on pieces that resembled Tetris. They weren't exactly like that. But no, it's just that was a fun one. I played so much of that, and it's just kind of a shame to kind of see it just basically disappear. Um, but look, I can't never say it was super popular. Um, because very few people that I've ever even talked to have ever even heard of it. So I definitely get it. But definitely a cool game, man. That was definitely up there whenever I mentioned bargain games that, you know, $10, but hours of fun.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take a real low hanging fruit here on for my next one, man. And feel free to disagree with me. Uh but
All right.
honestly, since it's come out, I don't know that if I just aggregated all the time that I've spent on it, I think maybe one other game, which will be on this list, maybe matches the amount of time I've spent playing this game. But simply because that game came out way before. But Pokemon Go,
Dude, that's a great, yeah. Because I mean, how much does that game cost?
free 99.
Yeah, yeah. That doesn't cost anything.
I mean, now let's preface it by saying this: it is definitely free to play. To get the most mileage out of it, you do either A, need to live in a city, or B, dump a little bit of money into it.
Right. And so whenever you're throwing money at it, though, it's kind of more or less the same as a microtransaction world, right? I mean,
Right.
yeah, I mean that's not uncommon with a mobile game, though. So I think that's certainly, it's certainly something to be had, or be said about that. But what I mean, dude, I don't know. Like, I know you were day one on this, and I know you're pretty still pretty heavy with it, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I've stopped. going to like I used to do all the community days, and I used to do like we would go every Wednesday pre-pandemic. We would go and do like they have raids. And Wednesday is a day that everybody gets together and goes and does all the raids, and they put bosses in all the gyms and stuff. And I know I'm speaking Chinese to a lot of people right now, but basically it was a giant boss battle, and it was a community way to get people together and walking and interacting with each other. And so once the pandemic hit, that was kind of a little rough to do, but I still every once in a while will go out and do it. But I'm constantly like I'll be sitting at work and I'll just flip open the screen real quick, take a look, see what's around me. Oh, nothing's around. Okay, cool. Close it back out. But it's just one of those things where like I find how like you'll doom scroll on like on any given website. You can do that with Pokemon Go.
Right.
So it's just it's a fun game. It's a fun little distraction here and there. Get it for a while. It was getting me more active. I was walking a lot more. Now I'm getting fat again. So,
but that here's the thing though. That's the thing. I think that was the whole. If I remember correctly, it's one of the whole concepts to that was to get people motivated to get out and enjoy fresh air and walk the park. And I I recall like that was the big get initially was this has this really cool augmented reality thing you can throw at it, and you're in the real world, and,
yeah.
and those whole deal. Now, did you play the first Niantic? I can say that right. Property. And the name escapes me.
Ingress.
Ingress. Yeah, yeah. And so I played a lot of that. Of course, I can't remember the name. I can't say a lot. Probably not nearly like a 5% of what you did on Pokemon Go, but I did enjoy that. That was kind of cool. So it was kind of cool to see where that went. Because they're a really interesting developer. Like they really put some thought into how that goes, and kind of connecting the real world to gaming, which is interesting.
Yeah, so I started to try and play that, and then I just lost interest. Mostly I'm weird, man. Like I can really only focus on like two, maybe three mobile games at a time. Um, Currently I'm doing, Pokemon Go, obviously. I'm doing Disgaea RPG and Marvel Strike Force. So like, and at the time, I believe I was still doing when I was playing that too, I was playing Star Wars Heroes and Fire Emblem Heroes. And since then I've dropped off on everything, but Disgaea wasn't out then, but I've
Mm-hmm.
dropped off on everything except for Strike Force, Disgaea, and Pokemon. So it's really hard for me, like, because I tried that. I tried the later game that came out, the Harry Potter, whatever the heck that was, and I have no desire to play the Pikmin game that they just released. So um I don't know. I don't know what it is. I guess it's because I like the actual series of Pokemon games, like and since you could, I mean, here's the other thing with the Pokemon Go, the Pokemon you catch in there. So including your shiny Pokemon, which for those of you who don't know are special colored Pokemon, they don't do anything different than the other ones, but everybody gets all, super stoked about them, including me. It's a whole cottage industry on like farming for shinies in both Pokemon Go and in the normal Pokemon games. You can look up on YouTube. It's insane. But you get this, you can take those and they're not trapped in Pokemon Go. Any Pokemon you catch in Pokemon Go, you can transfer over to the Switch, and into your normal Pokemon games. So they're not just locked away. It's not like you're making progress in that game and that game alone. It's helping you on every other Pokemon game that comes out for, in the main series.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat how it does that.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think, I was, talking to you about it. You were the first person that kind of brought that to my attention. Because it's a real, and it's kind of a neat concept too. Not that it's necessarily new, because there have been, connections with doing things in other games that, and I say that meaning like, the amiibo thing, right?
Right.
So you can have amiibos for one game, but they actually can do things in another game. But it's just really neat that you can kind of take it with you and then, port it to, the more the, like you said, the more the main series games. And it's a fun thing. But you had mentioned too, kind of about, throwing some money into it. Um, you know, but even at that point, I think because you could always still call, even if you did, and you're calling some things, in this case a bargain. I think it really depends upon time and level of enjoyment, right?
Right.
I really and other things that you're getting out of it too. Maybe you are getting a little bit of exercise, or maybe you are, at least connecting with other people too. Because I know there's whole things about meetups, and I know at least pre-COVID there seemed to be a lot of that going on.
Yeah, there was a ton. There was they would do global events and people would literally buy tickets and airline and whatever and fly. There was supposed to be one in May of 2020 in Philly, at which I was considering going to. Um, and people from all over the world will meet up and they'll go and they'll there's like certain tasks you have to complete, catch so many Pokemon, and then they'll release like certain ones just in that area. It's geo fenced off and you can only access it from that location, stuff like that. So it's a huge thing. And hopefully soon it gets, they're starting up the global events again. They're starting to, I believe, oh, where the heck is it? I want to say Taiwan and Mexico or something like that. Um, there are live events coming up soon. I don't remember exactly where off the top of my head, but you can go and it's people from all over the world just hanging out and playing Pokemon Go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, it's just, again, we use the word bargain, but it kind of really encapsulates a lot of different things in this. It's like, yeah, free game to play. That makes it a bargain.
Yeah,
But like you said, there are different things that do cost money. Traveling out, or the transactions within, or just your own time too. But I think that it goes hand in hand with any game.
yeah,
I could say how many hours I've pitched on Skyrim, and I've bought it 5 times over. I'm not going to list that as a bargain, but but
right.
but for for the the dollars to time ratio, it would be, so
Yeah,
again, kind of an open-ended thing, kind of going back to our whole conversation we had on, do graphics make the great game? I think that's kind of what opens this up too. Yeah, we throw a price point at it. Like I said, initially I was like, yeah, think of things that cost under $30. Well, think about it in this terms. Like, how much time did you spend playing it? Was it really that, worth that?
right.
Um, and I'm going to throw one at you. You've talked about this. We talked about this many times, and we haven't really had an update. Um, NFL 2K5.
Right. Launched at $20.
Yeah, $20 game. And how much? I mean, I, you found ways to break the game.
Yes. I've dude, I have used and abused that game. I'm still using and abusing that game. I haven't played it recently. Trying to think, the last time I played it was probably like December, but it's dude, it's an evergreen game for me. It's an evergreen title. I'll always go back to that game so long as my, knock wood, my 360 doesn't crap out. Um, or I for whatever reason can't get a 360 or have access to one if mine does break. But yeah, man, it's still going strong. My R2D2 360, and I'm able to play 2K5 on it, and makes me a happy boy.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like I said, bargain by price. 1999 at launch, which was unheard of.
Right.
But I spent many an hours playing that one too, and it's just, that was basically the last non-Madden real NFL game we had. So in terms of wanting to, excited to pick it up and play it, not just because of the price point. It was just such a fun game, because
Well,
I know
and
it was one of those games that you would have been like, think about it retrospectively. It's like, what if that game came out at $100 and you were such a fan, you picked it up, you would have still thought it was a bargain now.
right. Well, and that's what's funny is, do you remember when I got the launch 360 and one of the games I got with it was Madden, and I had brought it over to your place and we were playing it, Do you remember how bare bones that was?
Yeah, yeah, I do. There was like nothing going on with it because you didn't have all the cool like things that you could do with 2K5.
Right.
Like
You couldn't even challenge plays.
yeah, yeah,
If there was a play that where it was clear, like, hey, this no, I that wasn't right, it doesn't matter. You couldn't challenge plays. There was no franchise mode in that game. And we're talking a launch title for a next gen system in 2006. This game came out because it was Madden '06. Yeah. So this game came out a year beforehand and had all this other stuff. And you couldn't figure that out? Really?
yeah,
Get out of here.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty wild to consider, especially like then, how you could release a title and not include the basics. The to me the basics,
Right.
especially now thinking about it. Um, you're at what 2000 what year would that be? 2000 what
Two,
5 6
2004.
4
Wait,
okay, yeah,
2004 is when 2K5 came out, and then 2005 is when Madden '06 came out.
yeah, okay, I knew I was in that realm. Like, here's the thing, I'll go back to it. You even had things like injuries in Tecmo Super Bowl, which came out in 1991,
Right.
and they couldn't have basics in a game that was much newer.
Well, and here's the other thing too, and this was the big thing for me. It was Madden 2006, Madden '06, whatever you want to call it. John Madden wasn't in that game.
Mm,
The announcer was just a random radio announcer. There was no Madden in the game aside from the title. And it just, you could have even used, even if you use the sound from the old game or from the last gen game, because Madden '06 and the PlayStation 2 and on the Xbox, the original Xbox, had the correct, it had all these things that the one for the 360 was missing. How did you screw up so badly that you weren't able to fit these things into your next gen game?
yeah, that's a fair point, because you would think that'd be an easy port. But who knows? I don't know. It's you and I have talked about this kind of before, and no disrespect to Madden, but there's a reason why I kind of stepped away from the series, and not talking about just because of stuff like that, but um, over the years, there's been things that just, yeah, because I want to go back, I want to play 2K5, and I want to play Tecmo, and I want to play the games I really enjoy. I don't know. I don't know. We can sit here and bash different Madden games all night, I guess.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's go to the next game here. So, because I've got a little list here. I don't know how many do you have.
I don't have a handful, and I don't have to certainly talk about all of them. I can certainly think of more. So let's just do it. Let's just go.
All right. So let's go. Some of these I'm not going to say too much on, just because there's not a whole lot to be said. Hexic HD, free. Speaking of the 360, it was on every 360 that came out. It's a free game with launch.
That's
Fun,
right.
fun
Okay.
little
Yeah.
puzzle game.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's a good
So
one. I didn't
yeah,
even think about that.
it was all. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. It was on every one that had a hard drive. So if you got the base one that didn't have a hard drive, you didn't get Hexic. But still, free game with a hard drive. It works for me. It was fun. I played it a lot. Dude, I've played it recently too, just because I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this game, and I played it. Um, let's go another free one. Another free one. Okay. Hearthstone. Have you ever played
Ah,
that?
now I have not played it, but I do. I'm very familiar with it because it's part of our esports program. So
Oh, there you go. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
one that I recently, like I didn't play that until very recently, but it's a fun game. And it's free, it's fun. It's a card game, card battling game, and it's pretty cool. pretty cool. It's based in the World of Warcraft lore, um, and very enjoyable. So, what do you
Yeah.
have next?
Those are both really good. I completely forgot about Hexic. That's a good one. But in the same vein, though, it's funny. Um, we'd be remiss to say this one. What cart came with about every Nintendo system?
Oh yeah, Super Mario Brothers,
Yeah, I mean, come on, Mario Duck Hunt.
world class track meet.
Yeah, I mean, think about some of that stuff, And again, look, we're kind of splitting hairs here with whether it was free or bargain, but let's pretend it was free because that you're paying for the console.
Right.
Man, you talk about hours spent on because mine came with the Mario Duck Hunt split, and man, I played a ton, an absolute ton of that. I still have my cart sitting downstairs, the original one that I had when I was a kid. Man, I
Well,
still
hey,
have.
let's go one further and mention your favorite game of all time, Tetris, with the Game Boy. Came free with the
Dude,
Game Boy.
exactly. You know, dude, that's one. It's funny. I have not played Tetris on the Game Boy in many, many, many years. But I will occasionally throw the skin on Tetris 99 because they have the Game Boy skin,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, and the color scheme's similar, and they try to they try to do the monochrome, green screen it, and it's cool. I do dig it, and they try to keep the music similar too.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
no,
That's
you're
cool.
right. I mean, that's another one. That's another one. And the if I'm gonna fast forward to recent times, have you? I think you and I've talked about this. But the Astros Play World or Play World Playroom,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
for the PS5. My goodness, talking about a ridiculous download fun platformer. Golly. And I just watched my son play it through. I never really touched it necessarily, but I was like, this is really cool. It's a really nice nod at anything that Sony's ever released hardware wise. They do a lot of callbacks to some different things. It's just a fun play, and it came with a system. It's again $500 system, but it came with it, so
Right. No,
it,
hey man, it's a
it
cool
gives you
game.
yeah, it gives you something to play without having to pop a disc in, and
Right.
and it's right an initial thing, and I think there's still something to be said for that too. But
And
no,
it shows you all the cool aspects of the new controller that they put out.
exactly. It's a game that is basically a enhanced tutorial, is what it is. It's so you can learn, different things that you can do and what the controller does, and so you can take that knowledge that you've gained to another thing. But yeah, again, that's another freebie, if you will, came with it. Certainly a bargain. Um, but no, so what do you have next, man? I kind of went on a little tear there with games that came with systems.
No, you're good. You're good. So let's go. I'm going to go with a twofer here. So this is the first one is going to be Kingdom of Loathing. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I've heard of that. Yeah, I've never played it though, but I've heard of that.
So I used to play the heck out of this. It was a free browser game. It was timed. Like you could pay, I guess, to if I remember correctly, because it's been a long time. I feel like you could pay to like speed up the timer, but it was like an RPG. Everything was stick figures. It was really funny. Like it was a like a comedy game, but it was like an RPG set in like feudal times, and hence the name Kingdom of Loathing. Um, and it was just really funny and it was fun. Well, for the Switch, they came out with West of Loathing, which is basically a Western version of it. And I think it's like $10 or $15 for the Switch. So definitely something that I'm eventually going to check out. It's been on my wish list on my Switch for a while now. So I'm gonna have to snag that at some point. Um, and then get into something that I own that I'm happy that it's appreciated in value. So I've talked at length about a lot of the games that I bought and then for some reason or another got rid of, and now they've shot through the roof. Um, this one is one that I still have, and I bought it for $20, and it's now worth $250 for just the disc. Dokapon Kingdom for the Wii.
Yeah, remember you and I've talked about this game before too. Uh,
Yeah.
y-
So
yeah, I
this
know
is a fun
you.
one.
Yeah, I know you speak really highly of this.
Yeah, it's out on PS2 if you can find it. It's cheaper than the Wii one. Um, and it doesn't really take much away, but it's basically like a board game slash RPG mixed together. And it's super fun. It's especially if you want to piss off the people you're playing with, because that's actually part of the game is just screwing over the people you're playing with. You can team up, which is great, but sometimes it's a little bit more fun to screw them over.
Yeah, that's the full part about playing games, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say, and that'll lead me into this one, and I won't speak too much of this because it's one of those games that typically new game, and I've talked about it before. But Sackboy and Katie, Tommy, and I were playing earlier, and we're playing a pretty difficult level now, which includes a lot of insane jumping. We'll just say it's a lot better if you just play by yourself and you're not playing with two kids. Um, but the great part about Sackboy is you just smack each other, and the reason why I include this in my bargain games because this is a $30 game now, and it has been for a while because this is a typical easy $60 game at release. But the fun thing with this one is that obviously outside of being a very customizable, different skins, whatever, and just a good 3D platformer, but you're talking about screwing someone over. So we do all these jumps, and when you play multiplayer in that, you can hit checkpoints. The minute you hit checkpoints, if your other characters have already died, basically they come back to life. Well, um, Katie does this great job about getting through where Tommy and I have already died, and she gets through this part, and so Tommy and I respawn, and we're on the end of a platform, and the first thing Tommy does is smack her off the cliff.
Nice.
And it's like after he calls her the savior, and then just goes smack and knocks her right off.
I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah, so yeah, not like Dokapon where you're trying to screw someone over intentionally, because you're actually trying to play cooperatively. But yeah, no, I've had a lot of fun with this game. I was again is one of those I was pretty skeptical of because I had very little. I got watched my kids play Little Big Planet games, and the Little Big Planet skin for Minecraft is always a big one for them. They both played that a lot. But like this, I was like, just whatever. And I'm telling you, to me, this is Sony's Mario. Like they've got this figured out. They really did a good number with this game. The music, the soundtrack is amazing. Anyone from Bruno Mars and some of these other like really big names. In fact, we were listening to it the other night, and it was like a cover of Material Girl, like just a random cover. Like I was like, what is this? And but just great music. Foster the People has song on there, and it um, just really, really, really deep game. Really enjoy it. Definitely a bargain. I have a lot of fun playing that. Again, one of those things where I was a little skeptical at first because it's really not my thing. More of a kids thing, and then no, I dig it. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. No, I've enjoyed the little bit of time that I've spent with it. I've got it for the PS5. I got it for Peyton for his PS4, and so we're enjoying it. And I've always liked the Little Big Planet games and everything, so I was happy to see something else in that vein. But I think you hit the nail on the head with Sony and using Sackboy as their Mario.
Yeah, yeah, and look, I only say that because look, you're not going to beat Mario, you're not going to beat Sonic. I take the Eric Bischoff train of thought here to pull a wrestling reference in here. You can either be better than, you can be the same, or you can be different, and that's exactly what Sony did here because it's
Yeah.
different. It really is. There's and I can't think of you know many times where I've been disappointed playing a Mario game or well, maybe some Sonic games. We've had that discussion before.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like the characters I'm drawn to because that's from our youth. Sackboy, not. This is not a character from my youth. I'm knocking on 40, but finding enjoyment like I was a kid.
Right.
And I think that's a great draw for a game, to be able to do that. Because I think that's why I was like, I'm not going to play this. This is more of a kid's game. And, again, kind of like going back to a Retro Bowl thing. The more I play it, the more I try not to compare it to something that I love. And I'm not comparing this to a Mario Odyssey or a 3D, 3D Land or those types of games. It's its own entity, and it's fun, and it's completely different aspects. So
Right. All right. So speaking of Mario, my next one on the list is Fortune Street. So this is another
yeah,
one that I've spoken about, ad nauseum. Um, have you got a chance to play it yet?
I've not played it, but I was hoping you were gonna go this route because I figured you were gonna hit Fortune Street at some point.
So this one is and actually now that I've said it, it reminds me of another one that I'll get to next. Um, so Fortune Street is a cross between Mario Party and Monopoly. And this particular one, the one for the Wii, launched at regular price. I managed to pick it up brand new for 20 bucks. Um, and I've played the hell out of it. We used to have there was a local game store that used to be in Cape Coral that every Friday and Saturday night I used to go to, and me and the employees would play Fortune Street and ignore customers. Um, and it was great, man. The game is fantastic. It's got Square Enix characters, so we're talking like Dragon Quest characters, really, more or less, and Mario characters. And then of course you can use your me. Um, and it's super duper fun. It was 20 bucks. I can't say enough good things about it. And in that same vein, there's a newer game. Oh, before I go any further, I should say Fortune Street is actually a Japanese, no surprise there. It's a Japanese series that dates back to the NES, and it's had
Mm,
releases on all different systems. It's released on PlayStation. It's released on. I have a version of it. It's like a generic version on my phone, on my iPhone. So, and I'm pretty sure it's on Android too. Um, you should be able to download it, and it's a fun game. And there's a free version, and then there's the unlimited version, which I think it was like 10 bucks or something like that. But super fun game for what it is. Highly recommended. So the newer game that I've gotten is called Billion Road, and it's similar but way different at the same time. And it's almost a combination of Dokapon and Fortune Street, where you could really screw over the other players that you're playing against. Um, and it's kind of neat because there's monsters involved, and there's kaiju battles, and there's all kinds of craziness. But it's a super fun game. It was super cheap. I grabbed it. I think it was $30 for a physical copy, and I think it's like 15 or 20 on the Switch eShop.
yeah, it's
Um,
1999. I'm just looking it up now because I want to say that I saw you write about this, maybe, or we talked about it, or
it's possible. Either or is possible.
yeah. So like, yeah, and yeah, no, this looks cool. I'm gonna have to pick this up.
Yeah, it's definitely the if you see, if you take my word for it, you might want to grab a physical copy of it. It could be one, I don't really like to buy games with in hopes that they appreciate and value, but it's a limited release. Limited Run Games has been distributing it for another company. It's not one that's like, oh, there's only 5,000 copies of this. Like they made however many, but it's not something you go to like Best Buy or Target or whatever and buy. There's only certain places you can get it through. So if you're thinking about picking it up, might be worth it to spend the extra 10 bucks or whatever it is and snag it from Limited Run.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, definitely. No, that looks cool. I've done have to dig into that a little bit. You didn't disappoint me on Retro Bowl, so
Yeah, yeah, every once in a while I have good ideas. It's not often, but here and there, man.
I'm gonna go dig in on a couple real quick that were cheap, I've talked about before. Um, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, and I only say this
Oh,
game because I picked it up for $4 at the McGuire Fort Dix BXPX,
nice.
and it was in their bargain bin. Now that wasn't a game that I spent a lot of time on, but Danielle did, and you know, it ended up me getting the trilogy on the Switch. But yeah, dude, for $4,
Yeah, yeah, dude, you can't beat that. That game is
no,
amazing.
yeah. And then I've mentioned Distropolis before. I
Yeah,
picked it up for free during promotion at the end of 2021, but I've never seen it any for more than $6. And as of today, it was $3. But it's just a top-down shooter. There's not a whole lot going on in the graphics department. This is basically we're talking like geometric solids.
right.
It's a hell of a lot of fun to play, and especially in short spurts. And the thing I like about it, it kind of brings in the old school leaderboard stuff where you can connect it to, connect it online, and you're basically showing your top score. The thing I really like about it, and I think it's kind of unique, is that you can play hot seat either single player, two player, or three player. No four player. I don't know why, but
That's
yeah,
weird.
so that's why I think it's unique, because they hot seated it. They stop at three, but it's really fun. It's really cool, and the leaderboard thing kind of made me think just real quick before I throw it back to you. A game you got me that I know for a fact is not a upper tier, because it never was a $60-$70 game. We're talking for the Switch, Space Invaders Extreme.
Yes.
And you want to talk about a damn good game at a damn good price. Holy crap. I play that probably about at least once, twice a month, for at least a couple hours of sitting. Because man, that's so fun. The music is good. They just, I love that game because it's one of the few, of course, it's Space Invaders. I mean,
Right.
but it's a few, it's actually like you get into the beat, you get into the rhythm, and you're like that's the way you play it, and it's cool. And my kids like to play the 4-player version that comes with it, which is more akin to like the original.
Hmm.
Um, but that's a fun one. They really enjoy that. But no, I got to thinking about that. But the cool thing with the reason why I said that was the leaderboards. They do the same thing in that game. You can connect your stuff online, and they throw the worldwide leaderboards up there, and you kind of see where you sit. And last I checked, I was like 250 in the 250 to 300 range,
Oh
I
wow.
think, on that game. Um, which is unusual that I'm that high on anything. Uh,
Except for
so, well,
crack.
no, but yeah, no, I I know I hit a couple of those things before, but yeah, I know we never talked about Space Invaders Extreme before, and that's a great game. And again, you're not going and buying the Madden 28 or whatever they're on now, uh,
Right.
for and here's the thing. Yeah, I'm just messing, but you know what I mean. Here's the thing that with games now, and one of the reasons why I want to talk about these bargain games, it's not that we're just talking about buying the $20, $30 game. You're even the new releases now, the $50, $60. Now you have these special releases. I'm going to buy the NBA 2K that has this extra download for $100. I'm sorry, but like I have a really hard time throwing that kind of money, even at a game that I really like.
Right.
WWE does that too. It's like, oh, this
Oh yeah.
comes with this extra card, or this thing that you can play in this online game, or this phone game we have, mobile game we have. It's $89.99. It's like, oh, that's thanks. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you know what? Okay, cool. It comes with a piece of the mat signed by Hulk Hogan. Yeah, that's awesome, but why?
I'm not paying $200 for it.
Right.
It's insane. But I don't know. Look, kind of went off the beaten path there, but I think that's a worthy conversation to bring in. Is that, look, you and I may have paid full price for a game, and we still find it's a bargain. But then you're kind of on the other side of it too, where it's like, even if it's a property we really like, and it comes with all this extra stuff, which sounds really cool, but at the end of the day, it's like it just sits there, and
Right.
now I'm into it for $100 on the same thing I could have spent, because what I got one extra DLC skin. Like
Right, exactly. And I mean, I listen, I'm guilty of splurging on a couple of the special editions of games. There's one series in particular I do it for every time they come out with a game, and that's Disgaea. You know, I have probably I want to say like 4 or 5 Disgaea special editions sitting in my closet. But the reason I do that, and just like I said, I don't like to buy stuff and sit on it speculating and all that stuff. Uh, Last time I looked, most of them were selling for at least double what I bought them for.
right.
So some of them, I'll justify in that way. But honestly, am I really going to sell? No, no, I'm not going to sell them. I love those games.
Yeah.
But um, so moving on though.
Yeah.
Let's go on to, and I'm gonna kind of jump in where you jumped in as far as the um where you bought your copy of um Phoenix Wright at the McGuire BXPX. That's where I got my next game, which is
Oh,
Burnout 2 Developers Cut for PS or for Xbox. And
really?
there's a specific reason, and I'm fairly certain you know why this game makes the list.
Oh well, dude, we played a crap ton of Burnout for one, but
Right.
you know,
Crash mode for $20.
oh,
Completely worth it.
oh, dude, you, that's the whole. I mean, that's it for Burnout. That's all you need.
Right. Right. I mean, now I'm not going to sit here and say so Burnout 3 and 4 didn't introduce some cool stuff. Like, I totally love road rage mode because I really wish I could drive like that. But the crash mode, man, when they took that out of the games is when I really started losing interest. So, like, Burnout Paradise, fantastic game, absolutely great game. Change the name because it's not Burnout. There's no crash mode.
Yeah, true. Good point. Good point.
Like, road rage is still there, and that's cool. And I do, like I said, I really enjoy road rage mode. But crash mode is the heart of Burnout. And the fact, what really sucks is, so I had bought a bundle of GameCube games like a couple years ago, and it had 2 copies for some reason of Burnout 2. I'm like, all right, well that's fine because it was when I was getting some games for Peyton, and I had a GameCube too, and I didn't have Burnout. So I'm like, all right, cool, Burnout 2 for the GameCube. So it's gonna have crash mode, right? Uh-uh. No. Crash mode was only on the Xbox and the PS2. And actually, it
Mm,
may not have even been on the PS2 now that I think about it. I know it was definitely on the Xbox, but it's not even included in the GameCube version. So there's literally no reason to own the GameCube version.
yeah, and it sucks because I remember when the original came out and was such a fan of it because it was just it was up my alley. As far as you know, who doesn't want crashing cars?
Right.
But and to go to your point too, Burnout Paradise, and I actually have the remastered for the PlayStation and for the Switch. Um, I don't know why I own it for the Switch, but I do. Um, it's a fun. It really is. Like I don't play it. Tommy does. But you're right. It's not Burnout like I remember it.
Right.
It's just I don't know. It's hard to frame around. Look, you remember the Destruction Derby games for
Yeah.
PlayStation?
Yeah, absolutely.
The whole reason why I like those games because of the title, because that's what it was. But you start messing with the formula
Are you
with
talking
Burn
Destruction All Stars Racing for PS5?
not a bargain. Not a
That hey,
bargain.
listen, I got that for $10,
I did too.
and
Not a bargain.
I still don't. Yeah, it's still not a bargain. So it's not
Not
all
a
about
bargain.
price, friends.
Nope. And that's kind of where I was going with that. And yeah, not a bargain. I played it once and was like, I don't know what this is. I, this is terrible.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not good. But that's the thing though. You're right. So going back to, Burnout, you said Burnout 2 Director's Cut for the Xbox, right?
yeah. Developers
Do
cut
you, do you developers cut, I'm sorry. Do you remember what you gave for that?
$20.
$20. Okay. And the great part about and we've talked about this before too. I know you had, and this wasn't a game, but you had another pretty cool find there in terms of a GameCube controller. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, the orange spice.
Yeah, yep. So yeah, that place was cool as far as trying to find random stuff in gaming sense. Unfortunately, that was toward the end of my time going up there. And I used to come down here to Fort Campbell, but I haven't been there in, gosh, 10, 11 years. So I have no frame of reference anymore on looking around on base for anything. But no, definitely cool there. We do have to talk about at least this game, um, and how many different ones there have been in terms of a bargain. The Jackbox series.
Yes, absolutely. Because I actually started playing this when it was on PC and Mac as You Don't Know Jack.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, on the You Don't Know Jack trivia games, they were not full price. They were,
No.
yeah, they were $20 games then, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, they've always been bargain games. That's what the audience they catered to, was to try to get as many people to play it as they could.
Right. And they definitely listen, they got friggin' customers for life out of me and the Barney brothers. Because we used to play, we would stay up during summer vacation and we would just stay up playing this crap and laughing our asses off.
Yeah, dude, I have fond memories of playing You Don't Know Jack with my mom. It was one of those great things, and just a classic trivia game. But then it evolved into this Jackbox series over the years, and just these ridiculously fun party games. And I believe they finally announced what 8 is coming out this fall, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yep. So, but man, just some fun stuff. And there's games that, like, I know, like, we'll sit down and play as a family. Just on 7, the Devil's in the Details. And I think about that. It's like, again, bargain game for the price. And that's the cool thing about Jackbox games, is that you can find them on sale pretty regularly. They're known for doing that, because they are also smart enough into having other sources of revenue. So
Right.
when I go back to, like, looking at the Devils in the Details games, like, you can play that game through, and at the end of it, it'll send you a link to be like, oh, do you want to buy this mug? Like,
Right. Right.
it's
And you can buy the t-shirts from the TKO.
yeah. And I actually got the kids a deck of cards off of the what's the one, the fighting game in 7, where you draw
Oh,
it's like a draw KO or whatever it is.
yeah. I can't remember
uh,
what it's called. I was just playing this the other night too.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. Like, you can Champed Up, that's what it's called.
Okay.
uh
Okay.
thank you, Google, once again. um but no, it's cool because, like, hey, draw your characters, and then it's like at the end, it's like, oh yeah, we'll send you this pack of cards for 10-15 bucks. And it's like, seems a little high, but it's like, that's a really cool novelty. And look, I got a pack, and they're great quality. uh you know I, it's they've got it figured out, and that's it's just good. So what do you have, man? What else we got here?
So I've got 3 more on the list. So the next one I'm going to go with is Katamari Damacy for the original PlayStation 2. Um, for the original PlayStation 2, that doesn't make any damn sense. Anyway, when that game launched, it was $20. Was a value at twice the price. I didn't get it when I first booted it up, but after I started playing it, I absolutely loved it. Just you know, super goofy, super lighthearted, super fun. Um, Definitely a game that I would recommend, and I could still go back and play. I mean, it's been re-released now for pretty much everything. So, but that game, fantastic. Um, Super Blood Hockey for the Switch, which is kind of like a cross between Blades of Steel and ice hockey, um, like the original ice hockey game for NES. And it's real fun. It's basic pixely graphics. Lots of blood. Obviously, it's in the friggin' title. But yeah, you fight a lot in that game, obviously. And then the last one I got, and the only reason I'm putting it on here, where I'm on this list, is because I didn't play it until it like probably a decade after it released, and I remember buying it brand new, still in its package and everything, for I want to say it was somewhere between 10 and $20. Baseball Simulator 1000 for the Super Nintendo.
Thank you very much. That's a wow. Yep.
Yeah, tip of the hat to you for that one, because I remember seeing it in Nintendo Power, but I had just never played it until you were like, "Yo, Super Baseball 1000 is where it's at." I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I can't ever speak enough to those games, man. I don't know. And again, we kind of goes back around to how we started this conversation with Retro Bowl and looking at statistics and wanting to do some things that, you know, were a little deeper in games. Retro Bowl kind of takes a different spin on that. They still keep stats, but um, yeah, that's one of the things I fell in love with about that. Plus, it's an arcade game, really. I mean, uh, you have the ability to make your baseball a meteor when you hit it. I mean,
Right.
you can make the ground shake. You can zigzag your ball. You can throw a fireball. These are really cool things. And yeah, no, it yeah, and I love to see it. The fact that it's on the Switch Online. Um, you know, super happy when I saw that on there. So yeah, no, I think that's a great one to finish this out. Unless you had anything else, because I'm good, man.
No, the only thing that I want to put out there is I need to yell at the devs of Pokemon Legends Arceus, Arceus, um,
Arceus, yeah.
Arceus, and because you guys put this stupid little Pokemon in there, Enamorus or some bullshit like that, and it's really pissing me off, guys. It's really pissing me off. It shouldn't be this hard to catch damn Pokemon. Keeps knocking me out. Went through the entire game, didn't get knocked out once, and now this piece of shit is knocking me out left to right. I don't appreciate it. You're pissing me the fuck off. Sort your shit.
We were doing really good, like an hour 10-ish into this, and now you just slapped an E label on this one.
Well, I mean, since I did, I might as well fuck, motherfuck, motherfuck, noich. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, noich. Smoking weed, doing coke, drinking beers, beers, rolling fatty, smoking blunts. Who smokes the blunts? We smokes the blunts. Rolling blunts and smoking blunts. $15, little man. Put that shit in my hand. If that money doesn't show, then you owe me, My jungle love. Oh. I think you want. Fuck! I fucked it up. God fucking damn it. Fuck it. Fuck it. You know what? All right. You know what? Everybody stopped listening at this point anyway. So I guess at this point, that's the end. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out before we get removed. We've got bigbeefyshootyboys.com. We've got doublewidecoffin.com. And until next time, we have been the Noise Brigade. And have a good night.